Hello everyone, welcome to Four Lads Rangers midweek pod. It is just the pair of us tonight. No hair, don't care, show loyal. Chris sends his apologies. Unfortunately, Chris isn't with us this evening, but he will be back pretty soon. Hopefully next week. Kenny, how are you, mate? Are you well?
I am, yes. This pod's better with no hair, mate, anyway. But best wishes to Chris. And yeah, still no new laptop, mate. Still on the old one.
You know, there was people saying the boys are late. Do you know why we were late? Because we were bitching at each other because Kenny's still got his new laptop. Still hasn't got it working. I'll just go out and fork out money, folks, and then just, you know, from the Four Lads fund and just get completely patched with it. However, the boys are here. A lot to discuss. We're going to discuss Danny Röhl, what he said today. A lot of interesting things. The stadium expansion. Kenny's going to have his say on the sackings from Monday. We've not spoke to Kenny since. We're going to start, folks, with a story that done the rounds today on social media. I believe the site that put it up have now retracted it. I just want to confirm Robbie Farewell has not left Rangers. Robbie Thelwell is still there. He is still employed. He was in doing his job today. And that is gospel truth. The account that put it out has now retracted the story and said it is not true also. So just to clarify that news, I will say that I think it will become difficult for Robbie Farewell to remain at Rangers given these sort of stories will go around. And I feel that it will be difficult for him. I just need to wait and see how that one goes, Kenny. But a difficult circumstance for him. He's come up here, probably heavily. He was wanted by clubs in England, so he comes up most likely to be with his dad, etc. He's then moved on, and he's going to be surrounded by these type of stories of his sacking and him quitting and all that for quite a while. I'd be amazed to see Robbie Farewell at Rangers in 6 months' time. You know, he has just arrived at the football club. So let's see how, you know, that develops. But stories today, completely untrue.
And a very difficult situation for the boy, isn't it? When his dad's been sacked on Monday and there's rumours on Wednesday about him. And again, I don't know where the stories came from. I seen it online and it certainly Chinese whispers, wasn't it? It was doing the rounds and I don't really know what to say. I tend to agree with you on that I think it's one of those kind of uncomfortable situations that the boy's found himself in, and I wish him no harm at all. I hope he's very good at his job. However, I do understand and totally agree with what you've said there. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him. Just guilty by association, you know, about everything that's been before this season. And we said it at the time, and I'll continue to say it. Anybody that thinks that hiring a family member is a good idea at a club our size is asking for attention and trouble, really. And more than anything else, I don't know what, you know, the whole situation where that has happened has kind of came from, because it is just not a good look. The optics of it are terrible. But on the situation with the boy, I hope he's very good at his job, and he can at the very least get a settling in period here, Stevie, and then be judged and not have that kind of situation where he's literally in the door 10 minutes. And the rumours is that he's away already. I don't think that's very fair on the kid.
No, it's not, but it's good to bottom that out, folks. As I said, I'll repeat that Robbie Farewell rumours today that he is left, completely untrue at this moment in time. Let's move on. I'll bring this up straight away, though. Doing some deals for Black Friday, folks. I put something up on social media today. There is a code for all Rangers online store, which will get you 20% off. It is SITE20, SITE 20. That gets you 20% off. We have done really well affiliate code wise. It was something that me and Kenny signed up to last year with Castor. At the time, we have a very good relationship with them. Castore have even put up in the last few weeks, have put up the percentage that we get, because they know that all our donation or all our affiliate money just goes straight to charity. We've donated over, I think, £1,500 in total. We're already up at £750 for the last week or so that we've restarted to do the affiliate stuff. We never stopped, but it just went quiet. Castore and Umbro had a lot to do, and we're still kind of dealing with that side of it. So we're now able to get regular kind of discounts and things. So this, I think, will be the only discount you're going to get on the orange strip. So that gets you 16 quid off the orange kit. If anyone's thinking of buying for Christmas and that, go and use site 20. All the links are in Four Lads social. So hopefully that helps people. It helps people get money off. It helps Rangers get some trade, and it helps us then get affiliate money, which we give to charity. As I said, we done Cash for Kids and all that this time last year. So hopefully we can do something similar. It normally takes a few months for affiliate money to come through and swap round, but when it does, we'll go to you guys, members and YouTube watchers, and ask you where we think we should put the money, and that's something that we always do. So that is definitely a good thing. So thanks to everyone that's used that code, and hopefully it's helped. Kenny, today's presser, Danny Röhl. Interesting. We'll start with the injury news. Dujon Sterling comes into the European squad in place of Derek Cornelius, who has had surgery and is out to the end of January at the earliest. We knew it was going to be a bad one. Whether or not he'll get sent back in January, how that will progress, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a good 2 months or so out for Derek Cornelius. Not great news for Rangers.
No, it isn't. He's done okay. I'm not 100% convinced by Cornelius, but he's certainly improved the back four since five, as it were, since he turned up. But Dujon Sterling being back in the squad is good news. I think Danny Röhl had said in the presser that it was more for cover than anything else, and that because he'd been out for so long that he'll need to take his time with him and getting him back up to full speed, because it does take time. We don't have our troubles to seek injury-wise at this moment in time, and Mikey Moore out and John Suter out and a couple others a bit 50-50. So disappointing for Cornelius, because that's a bad one. If he's out, he's had the operation, and at the earliest, he said, was the end of January, wasn't it? So that is one of those kind of scenarios where you're going to have to look at that in terms of how the injury is healing, how the progress is coming on, and if he isn't going to progress quickly, I would suggest the chances are he will go back to Marseille, won't he?
Yeah, look, Kenny, I think that's a good point. Lots of comments. Do you think we can send him back and get somebody else in? We can send him back and we can get somebody else in. I think that's clear. I don't know that, I'm not privy to the contract thing, but I would assume there's a break clause. I would assume there's a return clause in the transfer window. And I would just need to wait and see. Like Kenny says, if this is one that begins to stagnate, he begins then not to recover and things like that. If it's going to be March before we get him back playing, the Rangers might look to try and fix that quite quickly. But we'll just need to wait and see.
The only thing I'd say, Stevie, because it was an international duty, it's a bit like Casemiro last season, isn't it? Where I believe that FIFA will pay those wages. And if the boy is very keen to stay, he might himself want to push that and want to stay himself and be part of that squad. So it's an interesting one, and we'll probably we won't see anything until the transfer window, as you say, but just wanted to point that out. I think that it is because it happened in international duty. I believe that FIFA will pay those wages, pay the insurance on that.
Yeah, that rings a bell, Kenny, somewhere. I think you might be right with that one. But that is the news of the squad. Chermiti also back in training, as was Rabi Matondo, much to the delight of young Andrew. Not so much the rest of us, Kenny, perhaps. He was asked on recent events on Monday on Stewart and Thelwell. He was pretty, I don't know the word to use. People might know a better word, but he was pretty cutthroat. He was pretty dry on it. He said this is football, and he pretty much had support around him from Fraser Thornton, the 49ers recruitment team, the ownership, Andrew Kavanagh, etc. He was then asked, Kenny, if he had any influence regarding that, and he said more or less that you would need to ask others about that, but he had to do the report, which he done. Kenny, I think it's fair to say, look, we're never really going to be privy to what's going on here. What I will say, a couple of things, is Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart had no idea come Monday morning they were no longer going to be Rangers employees. So this was a decision that was made very ruthlessly. In terms of that, if you look at a couple of weeks ago, Kevin Thelwell still putting in academy directors. He's still, Patrick Stewart's joining European boards and things like that. Danny Röhl putting in that report on the squad, Kenny. Before we go into their sackings, which we'll get to, putting in that report, it couldn't have been positive, because if it was positive, it would have damaged Danny Röhl himself. If he comes in and uses that green, yellow, red system thing that he said he had got going, if he uses that and they're all greens and one or two red, that just it's a false position for Danny Röhl. Danny Röhl was always going to be coming in, and that's what's nice about it, because he's not connected to any of them, and he can be cutthroat. We can have our guess at what it says. Realistically, Kenny, and the league European positions, the league results the last 4 have been good. The performances haven't. The XG and everything, all the stat nonsense is very telling. And I think with all that said, I think you can assume, Kenny, that this report wasn't favourable. Has it moved it on? We'll need to just speculate ourselves, because I don't think Andrew Kavanagh will ever come out and say anything about them. He's made that quite clear. But Danny Röhl was very much, it's football, we move on. Put it like this, Kenny. I would speculate and say he didn't exactly seem bothered or upset that 2 high-profile people, and a CEO and a sporting director, were gone. People that helped him in the job or was involved in that process. He was very much like, well, they're gone, we move on. And that's what I took from it.
That's football. That's the way you put it, isn't it? And the situation with this, it happened so quickly. Everybody knows this now. It's kind of almost old news. It happened on Monday, but Danny Röhl actually made a really good point. He said that he got a phone call and then had dinner the next day. I'm presuming the phone call was either the Saturday night or the Sunday. I'm presuming it was the Sunday, because he got the phone call on the Sunday, and Stewart and Thelwell were relieved of their duties on the Monday, and he's had dinner with Andrew Kavanagh, and the whole situation's been explained to him. And when it comes to it, I was talking to you before we came online, Stevie, and I think when you look back on this, I've watched a few pods, I've read a few articles about this, and the one thing I'll say about this is, if you look back to the manager hunt, the manager recruitment after Russell Martin was fired, and Steven Gerrard had this job, Kevin Muscat had this job, both offered a job, both knocked it back, both for reasons that, reading between the lines, but we were pretty much being told that they wouldn't work with those two. Now, when you look at that and then you analyse exactly what you've just said about Danny Röhl doing this player assessment and reporting back to Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers about the level of player, or the standard of player that we have, if you analyse where we are, 0 points in the Europa League, sitting I think is it third or fourth, joint third, whatever it is, in the league at this minute in time.
We're actually 5th, mate. But
are we 5th now, are we? Gee whiz. How happy are we? I mean, it's just a farce, that, isn't it? But anyway, the situation as we are, if Rangers are sitting 5th and bottom, 35th, 35th, 36th in the Europa League, that's just clearly not acceptable. And it all points to one guy. It all points to the recruitment, because Rangers should never be 5th and they should never be bottom of that table. So it stands to reason that Danny Röhl was going to hand over that report, and people are going to be quite open-mouthed by how brutal it's going to be, because this is a guy that's, been at Bayern Munich, he's been at Leipzig, top tier, top level clubs, and he actually knows what's required at a European level, and he's probably turning around and telling them, this is nowhere near. You've got a bunch of kids for the championship and expect them to go and play top tier, football, and it's not going to be able to happen. And if the rumour, and it is only a rumour, that there was a little bit of a disagreement about who was going to be brought in January, then Danny Röhl was going to really put his foot down on that and be even more brutal, I would imagine, because at the end of the day, it's his job that's on the line. So that's where I would stand with it, mate. I can't see Danny Röhl being anything other than frank, honest, and quite brutal about the assessment or the report on these players, because they're not good enough. We know they're not good enough. Fans have been telling the club all summer, since the summer, all year, this isn't going to work. So I have very little sympathy for the two of them, I've got to say.
No, we'll talk about them more towards the end of the show, Kenny. I'm keen to get a wider kind of view on that. What I would say about Danny Röhl is, and I really hate myself because he more than a normal day that ends in Y, but I said that Danny Röhl would. What did I said that I wouldn't be. I would watch him. I would give him time and everything. I really like him. It's pathetic. Like, I really like him, and I really want him to do well. And I wanted him to earn it. And 4 wins, I'm just like, I really like this guy. I want him to do well, and I want him to. But he comes across well. He presents himself well. I think he gets it. I think the way he spoke to us on and off, that people have seen and not seen, I think he understands what Rangers mean. I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again. I think you've got a guy that really appreciates being at Rangers. Not the way it was before, when it was a guy that thought we should appreciate that we had him. And I think Danny Röhl is great. I really want good things for him. And this is stupid because it'll come back on me, and I've said it before. I think Danny Röhl might be the right guy that we've been looking for, and somehow we've maybe stumbled towards him. And he might not have been first choice, he might not have been second choice or third, whatever you want to say. But I think Danny Röhl has got something. So let's just see how that works out. I reserve the right on my vlog tomorrow to be grumpy and say that it's a load of pish. But I really like him, Kenny.
Stevie, I'll say this. If you think back to last month, we were at the Roma game together, and in the mix zone after it, and you had wee words with him, and we've discussed it on here, and we had a wee laugh about it. But at the same time, you think about that particular moment when you turned around and said to him, you know, I've been coming here 40 years, 40 years, and I don't think I've ever seen it as bad as this. And you could tell he knew how bad this was then, couldn't you? I mean, you could tell by his reaction to you, but he just gave you a wee hug, and he did. And it was almost an admittance, wasn't it, Stevie?
Yeah. I didn't want to bring that up again because talking about that, but yeah, I think we could. I like him. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I think he gets it. I think he understands Rangers. I think, as I said, I think he's delighted to be here, and that sense you get from him makes me warm towards him and want him to do well. I want every Rangers manager to do well. I wanted Philip Clement to do well, and yeah, I got grumpy with him. I wanted Russell Martin to go. I didn't want Russell Martin, but when he came, I wanted him to do well, and very quickly it was obvious he wasn't. And it's Rangers. Of course, I want these guys to do well. And it's the same when I go on Rangers Review this morning. I'm talking about the players and basically saying they're dog shit because they are really poor. Of course, I want to go and win tomorrow night. Of course, I want Ant-Man to perform, Asgard, whoever it is that starts, and show me that I'm talking nonsense. Of course I do, because it's Rangers and we all want Rangers to win. Talking about the players, Kenny, Nico Raskin today said quite a few things. He said, yes, obviously I'm very happy here. We've got a new manager. We're trying to build something good and nice. We've got loads of things to do and I'm really happy here. I'm not deciding anything. I'm just waiting for anyone to come and talk to me. He's talking about the contract. I'm taking it day by day and trying to give my best for the club. He was then asked about running his contract down and what happened at his old club. He says it is. I know people will think that about how I left the Standard, but there's never been a thought about that. If I have to leave here, I want everybody, to be happy and for me to leave in a good way. It doesn't just depend on me. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. But there's nothing on my side saying I want to leave for free. I don't want that. This club has given me a lot. They've helped me go to the national team and show myself on a good stage. So if I can give back everything I can, I'll do that. At my old club, I didn't want to leave for free because I decided when we were negotiating a contract, a few players were in the same situation. We changed the board at the club. There was a problem with the timing, and by the time it was too close to the end. If I could have signed a contract and made it different, I would have, but it was difficult at the time. So he said that, and then he says, people might think I've done it before and we'll go down that road again, but that's not what will happen. I want to make that very clear. So he goes on to talk about Martin in a minute. Kenny, I've told people on this podcast before, I've said it online, I've got a lot of stick for it. Nico Raskin has not been offered a contract. And I'll say it again, he hasn't been offered a contract. We haven't spoke to him. He is open to staying and wants to stay at Rangers. When all this nonsense was happening in the summer and Russell Martin was trying to force him out, I couldn't say a lot of things and I kept quiet. But I did say Nico Raskin wants to stay at Rangers, and that's all that was ever on his mind. I don't expect Nico Raskin to sit in front of a press conference and say, I want out of here and I want this and I want out. I think it's quite obvious for any player at Rangers, and including Nico Raskin, if a dream move came in for Nico Raskin, whether if it's Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, wherever he might want to go, top clubs or whatever, Nico Raskin will go. I think that's fair, and I think we all understand the position we're in. And if Nico Raskin goes and makes us 15, 20 million, I'll be absolutely delighted for him. But Rangers have to bridge this gap with Nico Raskin as much as Nico Raskin needs to sign a contract. He's got to be offered it, and we've got to try and make that happen. So the next few months are big for Nico Raskin. I don't think he'll want to go in January. It's World Cup season. I think he wants to establish where he is, but we can't afford him to go to the summer in his last year of contract. So the only alternative is we say to Nico Raskin, year or two extension, please. And if this money comes in for you for this amount or whatever, then you can go. So I think that's where we are with Nico Raskin. And the first real time we've heard him speak since that Russell Martin debacle as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But his contract, Kenny.
This is Rangers, and this is madness, actually, that you've got a Belgian international in your hands and we are actually allowing this contract to run down when the boy doesn't even want that to happen. So this goes back to the previous sporting director and previous head coach and whatever has happened over the summer and the situation that Nico Raskin has found himself in is that he was getting pushed out the door. They were trying to push him out the door for not a huge amounts of money, I believe, as well. And I think it was Wolves, if I remember right, wasn't it? That the rumour was that they were trying to sell him to Wolves. And to me, this is just madness. What you should have done in the summer, one of the first things the new owners should have done was turn around and said, just take a year extension. We'll give you an extra couple of grand a week, whatever it's going to be, to pacify him. And as you say, a World Cup year, he's got everything to play for. And that there was a talk of them starting to, have conversations about extending his contract. And as I say, Thelwell or Russell Martin came in, and that seemed to stop very, very quickly. And that was the end of the discussion, basically. Now, at this minute in time, I would be turning around and saying to Nico Raskin, if I'm Andrew Kavanagh, you need to be mad if you're Andrew Kavanagh. You've got a primary asset on your hands here. A guy that was our best player last season, certainly the second half of last season, who has been seriously disrupted and affected by the shit show that Rangers were in the first 4 or 5 months of this season. And it's clearly affected his game, everything that was going on. You can tell he's still not playing well, and he's admitting that he's trying his very, very best to get back. And he also mentioned, not just physically, but mentally too, which shows you that, one, he probably doesn't feel he's been fit enough, because that's been something that's been aimed at Russell Martin since Danny Röhl came in, isn't it? That straight away they're on running drills and stuff, and the mentality thing that he's talking about, I think it's wrecked his confidence, what's been going on, and you can't do that to players. The simple thing would have been go and sign a year extension, and if anybody comes in for you and you want to go, then there's the figure that we want, and you're free to go. We cannot allow what we did years and years ago, a few years ago, with several players, Stevie, from the Ryan Kents to the Alfie Morells, to the umpteen of them that ran down their contracts, mate. We cannot allow this to happen. So what we do now, I don't know. I mean, I would genuinely be getting him and his agent at the table, turning and saying, sign a year extension, have a good World Cup, and if somebody in the top 5 leagues in a big club in one of those top 5 leagues comes in for you, you'll go with our best wishes and go and get on with playing good football, mate, because he is a proper football player, and we have stifled him this season. That's the way I would put it.
Yeah, and I think Nico has suffered. People saying that he's been this and that in comments and things like that. I don't argue with that. Nico Raskin is quite a bit away from his top form, but I also know what he's went through. There was a lot of stuff in the papers. He talks about it. There was a point where it was tough, and I had a clear indication that my future here was in doubt. But that's in the past. I've had loads of support here from the players and the staff. You remember the report that went out in a paper that said that the decision of Russell Martin to bin Nico Raskin from the squad by top players in the squad was all true and backed by them. Said at the time it was utter pish, and it's the same here. Nico confirms that today when he says he's got the support. Everyone in the building really good with me in terms of keeping my focus and my head there. There was a picture of me being painted at the time that wasn't happening in the building, but I don't need to go back there. So I think it's quite clear what happened. And I think it's quite clear what was going on at the time. As I said it at the time, Nico Raskin was trying to be forced out. And I think the way that Russell Martin and certain people at Rangers treated him, who are now gone, was extremely poor. I just want Nico Raskin to get back to the best he can. He isn't there at the moment. I think that's got a lot to do with the absolute dross that's around him. Nico is a bit loose on the ball. We've always said that. I think Nico is an 8. I'm not so sure he's a 6. I think Nico, a wee bit of freedom to make runs forward, to try and make things happen is where he's best, and to be able to win the ball and float around. I think he needs a 6 in beside him. I've said it for quite a while. Excuse me. I still believe he's our best player. And I think that he's not shown it. And I think that other people around him, Kenny, such as Diamande and things, have suffered from lack of kind of players around him as well. We do need better tomorrow night. I thought that the midfield on Saturday was quite flat. The boys need, Raskin and Diamande probably need Connor Barron, right? Or a better version of a 6 in there. And I like Connor Barron. That's not meaning to be disparaging. They need somebody who can properly dictate. I think Barron does a good job. I'm not so sure he's a starter or level we might need to get into. Could he grow? Possibly. But I think Barron is a good squad player. But if you've got an 11 or a 10 in there like Asgard, the lads in the middle need to be able to find him. They need to be able to pass the ball. He needs to then go and make it work so that when they're doing the tackling and winning the ball back, we can get it to the guy that goes and provides and feeds. That train on Saturday just was not working. So I wonder if he'll switch up. I wonder if Connor Barron maybe comes back into his thoughts tomorrow night.
I would hope so, because the midfield was mince on Saturday, wasn't it? I mean, it really didn't function at all. How you go about changing it? Our midfield's just been lacking all season, hasn't it? It's just not performed particularly well. We've already talked about Nico Raskin's form has dropped. Mo Diamande, again, I know a lot of people, he splits opinion, right? I really like him, but I think he's had a really poor season as well. I don't think he's performing very well.
Dreadfully inconsistent, I think.
Yeah, and Connor Barron is one of those guys. I compare Connor Barron to, if you look at, the great Walter Smith sides over these 2 tenures, right? There was always 8 or 9 Scots guys, younger boys kicking about. There was 3 or 4 senior players. There was a few younger Scots. There was a few English boys, and there was a lot of foreign guys. And I would compare Connor Barron to that kind of level, that he should be a really good, consistent squad player, because that's exactly what he is. And there's no shame in that for a good young player. He's in and out of the international team for a reason. He's a good player. However, I agree with you. I think in terms of being a number 6 at the very top level, I don't think he's quite physical enough. He's still got an awful lot to learn. But I would be having him in the team tomorrow, yeah, because if you look back at that midfield trio, I would actually be very inclined to take Asgard out that team completely, and probably try and play Diamande up there, and play Conor Barron and Nico Raskin closer together. That's what I would probably be trying to do. And people might disagree with that. It's all about opinion. But definitely for me, Conor Barron is one of those players that deserves his chance because he's been one of our better players this season when he's managed to get him, Stevie. So, yeah, I would like to see him start tomorrow in the holding role.
Yeah, let's move on from the press conference. Rangers started a feasibility study, Kenny, something we actually spoke about last month. It was in that kind of meeting that we had, and it was covered at the time. Rangers Review, etc., covered it as well. I think it was originally covered by Rangers Fan Advisory Board. I was at that meeting when they talked about what they were doing with the stadium. We covered it on this site. They're looking into stadium expansion. There was 3 different areas talked about. One of them was knocking down and filling the corners. One of them was building on the back of, I think, the Broomloan and Copeland, which there is a possibility of doing. And the one that's most likely is lowering the pitch and lowering the kind of front rows, adding on 4,400 seats. It's kind of on a short, middle, long term kind of scheme. They're looking into what's most feasible. Most unlikely seems to be the corners. I think when they built that, they made an absolute balls of it with how they've done it architecturally. So there's a suggestion that won't happen. And the back of I suppose you would say the back of the Copeland and the Broomloan, I suppose that's the biggest one that would add, I think, 8,000 onto each side. I think they discussed at the time. So there's short, middle, long term. I would say that the long term is the Broomloan and stuff like that. I say short term to middle term would be lowering the pitch and adding on that 4,400 seats. So talked about that. Talked about the surrounding footprint, which they're looking to put a tarmac down, add things, do stuff with the bar, give it some TLC. It needs it, let's be honest. And potentially new use for Edmondson House and reworking modelling hospitality suites, etc. The Americans are going to come into this and say that's not how we do it over here. This is what we could do, and I'm all for that. I don't mind that. I said on Monday night on this show with Davey and CJ that I firmly believe that Andrew Kavanagh and the group that took over have got good intentions and will do good things for Rangers Football Club. My concern had always been, and you would have heard me say this before, that I don't think they could see the wood for the trees. They were too close to perhaps Thelwell and Stewart, which has now been dispelled. And I think they've been and done the right decisions. So I just think possibly they've backed the wrong horses. They could have sat and let it manifest. They didn't. They've dealt with it. The 3 are now gone, and we're back to being in a position where we're looking to make new appointments. So with regards to the feasibility study and the stadium and things like that, Kenny, I believe it was a PR move to kind of bury bad news and bring up something good, because we already knew about it a month, 6 weeks ago, which is absolutely fine. It's not a criticism. It's what the club should do. So I kind of liked it. But what I'm getting at is I actually believe that these things will happen. I believe they'll lower the stadium. I believe they'll put in 4,400 new seats. I believe that they'll do up outside. I believe that you'll see a better Ibrox in the coming years for people to enjoy on match days.
First things first for me on this, the feasibility study, I tend to agree with you. I think it is a good day to try and bury bad news there. I change the subject, literally just turn around and say, no, look, that's done. This is now a positive news story to let you read about. And that's fine. The only thing I would say about a feasibility study, mate, is that if you're being honest, way back to David Murray's time, we were talking about feasibility studies and dealing with the footprint and all this kind of stuff, and we've never dealt with it. And when you look back to when that time, towards the end of the mid-90s and stuff like that, that's 30 years back now, mate, and nothing has been done round about the footprint at all, and it's in desperate need of it. Now, the next thing I would say more than anything else is that the matchday experience at Ibrox needs improved. Edmondson House, for those that use it, has improved it massively. I would imagine the bar thing that was shelved, the G51 bar was shelved, wasn't it? Stuff. a very interesting thing that they said when they said about looking at everything was that perhaps a better use of Edmiston House, using the office space more wisely and stuff like this. That's really interesting because there is masses of office space, as you know, up at the Argyle. There's loads of it. And they might
well, they talked about, sorry, Kenny, I'll just jump in there. One of the things they talked about is in that mid-tier of the Copeland,
yep,
so much office space. Could they make it a bar like Bar 72, like they've done in Sandy Jarden?
Well, it's a great idea. I mean, it's a genuinely fantastic idea, and that's what I'm saying. I think that the utilising the space that we have, the facilities we have, in a much better way, and actually giving the fans a better day out. Now, you know, all you need to do is look at certain tiny clubs in Scandinavia and stuff like that, and you'll go into the stadium and they've got bowling alleys and ice rinks and all sorts. And I'm not saying we're going to do that, Stevie, but it's enticing a family of four, a family of five, to come and spend their money at the football club, because you can, and you know this as well as I do. You've got two young boys, your wife there. You'd go and you would go early. See if you could go and make a day of it. You would make a proper day of it. And Rangers are missing a massive, massive trick here. We need booted, kicking and screaming into the 21st century, mate, because our football club and everything about it on the surface there is 20th century stuff, and we are in desperate need. That footprint, more than anything else for me, is the first thing that they've got to deal with, because we've been talking about it for 15 years or something like that, and it just gets worse every time you see it. The broken, you know, bits of pavement and stuff like that everywhere. It needs dealt with. And the stadium itself will take care of itself, mate. There's no point at this minute in time in us, when there's 35,000 there on Saturday, talking big and going 60, 70,000. Adding the 4,000 or 5,000 on is a cracking idea, but we need to be winning first. We need a winning football team. And the minute we get that, everything goes up. The merchandise goes up. The match day, you know, revenue goes up. Everything goes up. So I can understand why they've turned around and made this monumental decision this week, where they've turned around and probably looked at the accounts, looked at everything on Saturday. And, I mean, the place was like a graveyard on Saturday at times. Well, it was just so quiet at times, and we just need to get this sorted, mate. And that's where I would say I would be looking at, as you said, very quickly, sorry, Stevie, I would be looking at lowering the pitch, adding that, and then if we are successful from there, 4 or 5 years down the line, you have to turn around and look at building and on at the ends of the Copeland and the Broomlow, and then you'll get yourself up to 60,000.
Yeah, people saying 4,400 is underwhelming. I can imagine why they're saying that, but that would take our capacity up to 56,500. It's currently at 52. That's quite a bit, and currently we are, you know, 8,000 and 10 million short of our biggest rivals, who have a head start every single season. So, you know, eating into that considerably would be a result for me in the short term. People also saying, quite rightly, the water level, the Clyde and everything else. That was the first thing that was brought up at the meeting with Rangers, and Rangers assure us that is not an issue. Rangers have assured us of a lot of things, so we'll play that by ear. Another comment I was going to make, Kenny, as well, I didn't want to interrupt you for about the 19th time on the show. See, if there was bowling alleys in Ibrox, see the fucking half the shit I've watched this year, I'd be down playing bowling rather than watching that, I can assure you. So I agree with everybody. First things first, entertainment for Rangers has to be on the pitch. And I think that's clear. Kenny, before we quickly talk about the game tomorrow night, you haven't been on since. You were given Monday night off, much to your disbelief. You weren't pleased about it at all. But we try and look after people. Kenny had a nice wee week off. He wasn't chuffed. First time to speak to you properly on air about Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell's sacking. You were obviously, I think, like the rest of us, a bit shocked at it when I told you Monday morning. But now that you've had time to look at it, how do you think that's happened? First of all, and What's next for Rangers?
The next appointments have to be perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get. You have to get the right people in charge. Now, the CEO, for me, has to be, and I don't want to talk about Celtic across the city, mate, but Peter Lawwell is exactly the type of guy that took Scottish football by the scruff of the neck and made the SFA and the SPFL listen to them. And without bigging them up in any way, because I'm no fan of them at all. However, it's that type of character that we need. You need a leader and a guy that's going to be as mouthy as you can be. And Patrick Stewart was not that man. I mean, we've sat there for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is now, listening to Patrick Stewart talking about refereeing decisions, and nothing's been done. And I know it's very difficult, mate, but there's a way of going about forcing pressure onto referees and making sure that they don't give less of a shit about making a decision against us than they do against certain other teams. And that's what we are sadly lacking. I'm not just talking about referees here. I'm talking about loads and loads of different scenarios within football's political. It's always been political, and we are not a political animal. We don't carry enough weight. You need to get other clubs on side. Patrick Stewart never managed to do that. Patrick Stewart, I don't want to go over the old stories, mate, because we've addressed them, okay? But the monumental fuck-ups that man made in the year that he was here are just ridiculous. Now, if you actually stop and think, we sat there with James Bisgrove and he left, and then we spent 8 or 9 months, whatever it was, without one. And we're even more of a fucking basket case now at this minute in time than we were when he started. We've had 5 managers in that time, mate. Now, that tells you how bad a job he has done, including all the stuff with TIFOs and everything else, you know, that we could discuss, and I don't see the point. On Kevin Thelwell, results speak for themselves, mate. It's all I never take delight in seeing anybody lose their job. It's not a nice thing for anybody, you know, to go through. It's a horrible situation to find yourself in. But they were both absolutely terrible at what they were doing. And Kevin Thelwell has sat there, and there's only one way to just. When you binned me off the pod on Monday, mate, I sat and I listened to you and Davey and CJ, and it was brilliant. And the thing that I would say is that I kind of totally agreed with the three of you when you turned and said he has just turned up here and went, it's a piss poor league. We'll bring a pile of shite up from England and watch us stroll it. And that is not ever going to happen in Scotland. I don't know. I mean, I explained this to a client of mine the other day when he turned around and he asked me, what do you think? And I said, well, you think about this. And I know it's a different era, but 40 years ago, we had half the England team in our squad. Half of them, 5 England players. And it took us to the last day of the season to win the league. So what makes you think you can bring a big pile of very inexperienced, you know, second tier English footballers and expect them to come up here and do a job for you? And it's no disrespect to any of the players. It's just the sporting director, for me, has to be able to understand the football club, its requirements, its needs, its necessities. You need leaders, you need a spine in a team. And it's all right turning and saying he's taking this massive overview and it's not just about the first team. Everything about Rangers stems from the first. It's a pyramid. The first team's the most important thing. You get that right, the money flows and everything else filters. It is that simple. And you have to get the first team right first and foremost. And he made a rip-roaring arse of it. So if I'm being 100% honest, and I'm, as I say, I'm never delighted to see anybody lose their jobs, but I am absolutely delighted that somebody else is going to be taking over from the pair of them. Who that may be, I have no idea. I genuinely don't. I hope Danny Röhl has people in mind. I think Andrew Kavanagh hinted something about notice periods, didn't he? Which kind of suggests they might have someone in mind already, but we will wait and see. But I'm relieved more than anything about Kevin Thelwell not being given the opportunity to make us worse, Stevie, because from the absolute garbage at times we were last season, that maniac managed to make us worse, which is mental.
Sorry, maniac made me chuckle. I don't know who will come in as sporting director. I wouldn't like to try and speculate. There's obviously some names in the chat and everything people would like to say. I find it weird that Davy Weir was available only a few weeks ago and is now gone to Strasbourg. We've missed out on that. That's why I think something else has happened in here with regards to moving them. Patrick Stewart's contract was up in January. I always expected Patrick Stewart to go. I always said that on the show. He made a rip-roaring arse of being CEO. He was not very well received within Ibrox or anywhere else for that matter. I am not sorry he's going. It's not personal. I said the same thing to Patrick myself. And I'm not making it personal. I just don't think he was ever suited to Rangers Football Club. I think as CEO, we have one already in the building. I would love to see James Taylor get an opportunity to finance director. He knows Rangers Football Club inside out. He knows the SFA. He knows UEFA for his links of his dad and things like that, and his dad's jobs there. I think that would be a very wise move for Rangers in the short to long term. I think James Taylor's a really good fit. He's aggressive. He knows Rangers. He doesn't take shit, and I think he would be able to lead this football club. So with regard to a suggestion, James Taylor would be my suggestion. Sporting director, somebody that's, and by the way, Stuart Robertson, Martin Bain, all these others that went on to be CEOs at the football club, and we slated at the time, didn't have the shit show that Patrick Stewart had in the last year. Stuart Robertson, for all his faults, was pretty understated and pretty seamless. And yeah, he outgrew his position, and I won't rewrite history. He got too old for it. But bringing people in with that and allowing them, I think James Taylor is where we should be looking. Only personal opinion. Other people have other opinions. I'm quite happy with that, and I'm not disagreeing with anyone. People have mentioned Craig Moore. People have mentioned Christian Erlinger, etc. I don't think Christian Erlinger's had a job as sporting director since 2012, though, would be my only kind of thing. I know Craig really well. Would I be unhappy at that? No, I wouldn't. But I'm happy to let sporting director thing be decided by others. My only two bob for that argument, James Taylor, I think, is my choice of CEO. I'd love to see him be given the opportunity. As I said, only personal opinion. Kenny, it's been a pleasure. Braga tomorrow evening. They're pretty much our bitch. We beat them every single time we play them, and this is probably their best chance ever of beating us. If we beat them tomorrow night with this squad and this team, I think we should just get to keep them, and they should be like our reserve team, our warm-up for the girls on a Sunday, something like that. But I expect a tough game. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I don't expect Rangers to be favourites. I'm waiting one day for Rangers to turn up. I would settle for a performance like we had at Dundee, which wasn't great, but it was a hell of a lot better than we'd seen maybe at the weekend. I'd love to honestly see us go and do something tomorrow night. Spark a wee bit of excitement, a wee bit of adventure, a wee bit of thrill into the ground. There was 35,000 at Ibrox on Saturday because of what's been going on. I'd need... No, that's not right. I'd love everyone to start pulling in the right direction, getting behind Danny Röhl, getting behind Andrew Kavanagh, getting in a new CEO, sporting director, everyone going the way Rangers should be, which is forward thinking, more than an even level, playing field. That's what I want. That's my hope. I'd love 3,000. 3,000. What am I talking about? I just seen that comment. I would love 3 points tomorrow. I would love 3,000 points tomorrow. I'd love 3 points tomorrow night, Kenny, and get us away from the dooming dregs of the Europa League. A wee bit of pride back into our performances, give the players something to kick on from, and you then take that into Sunday, hopefully. But it's got to be 3 points tomorrow night. Look, forget Europe and the possibility of going through or whatever. I just want 3 points for a wee bit of pride, a wee bit of prize money, a wee bit of impetus into our season, momentum. Get that confidence in the players up as well.
Yeah, 3 points are a must. Actually, we will effectively be out of the competition if we don't get the 3 points. So you don't want to find yourself in that situation with 3 games still to go, regardless, Stevie. But I'll keep this short because I know you've got to go in a couple of minutes, mate. So for me, it is one of those things that, they have been a bit of our bitch over the years. And if we beat them tomorrow night, we might as well tell them that we're taking that mountain and we're keeping it next to their stadium, because that is an impressive arena to play your football in. It really is. And listen, they're a good side, Stevie. They've been a good side every single time we've played them. The first night we played them way back when Yanis Hadji had just arrived. I mean, they absolutely bossed us for an hour. Let's not kid on. They ripped the piss out of us for an hour. And we just came back and won that game in the last 20, 25 minutes, and it was sensational. Sadly, we don't have a team like that at this moment in time. So, as you say, they'll have their biggest opportunity to beat us that they'll ever going to probably get. But they are a good side, and they're a very dangerous side. However, I did actually manage to see their game against Celtic, and I wasn't overly impressed with them. I don't know what they're like. That was a few weeks ago now. Wasn't overly impressed with them. So if we could turn up and actually attack with a bit of purpose, which is something that I think we're just really missing, mate. But if we can do that, we'll have a chance, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I'd really just love give the crowd something to get behind, the crowd to get behind them, to give them a platform as well. So I would like that. Let's look forward to it, that's for sure. Kenny, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for your time. Let you go and watch the football. Liverpool have equalised. It is 1-1 in that game. You're probably sitting watching it anyway. I've seen your eyes dart up a few times.
Arsenal just scored, mate. That's why my eyes
Arsenal
darted.
Right.
Arsenal 1 up, mate. Yeah. Set piece, believe it or not. Corner kick.
Who would have thought
Surprised, it? Yeah.
Who would have thought it? Good on the Gunners. So go and enjoy your evening, folks. Go and enjoy the football. We will be, what are we doing tomorrow? Match day vlog, myself and Davey Heard back from his holiday, which I'm glad about because he's been posting on the group chat about how it's 25 degrees and all this pish. So I'm really glad he's back, and I hope he's freezing tomorrow night with me in the gantry. So we'll cover that game, match day vlog, and they'll also be live. Andrew with Rob and Mark are doing the post-match live. If you want a quick chat with the guys for 20 minutes after the game, you'll see them there. So all to say is thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Protection and Joinery, Adful Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Candid, Amrit and the team there, as well as our Sunday sponsor for the Sunday show, Local Dart Shop Online, which is still the same organisation as iSport Media. We're just switched their sponsor. If you want to get a hold of them, they are localdartshop.co.uk. I think the team over there install the dartboards and everything else for people. They just done it for Amrit actually in his house a couple of days ago. So I'm not tall. I'm not tall enough to play darts, Kenny. You need to install a wee ladder and that for me to be able to play the old darts. And thanks to our partners as well, Black Rooster Art of Gold. This evening, the Black Rooster comp will go up for tomorrow night as well to go and do your predictions. So go on if you're a member and play Black Rooster comp. Chance to win some scran if you can predict the score and the first scorer for Rangers. So go on and do that, please, folks. If you want to join, it is the QR code up in the top corner of the screen. Please go and help us out. No Black Friday deals here as such because I just don't know how to do it. But it is 99 pence a month. So thank you very much for all our members. I think there's 700 odd. We have been making some progress into getting some folk on and continuing the Rangers interviews. So thank you for your patience with that as well. And thank you, everyone, for their continued support. All the comments, we tried to get as many as we can on, and hopefully people have enjoyed the show as ever. Go and have a good night, folks. We will see you tomorrow. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. We're almost at 12,000 subs, which would make our year. So thank you very much on behalf of Kenny and I. Thanks for your time. Have a good evening.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.